Yo YouTube, what's going on? It's HIGHMMA, and today we are here to discuss a certain someone fighting in the middleweight division. He's got a fight this weekend. Is motherfucking Dricus du Plessis, and we're going to be talking about how I think he could become the UFC middleweight champion, like greatest of all time. I worded that so wrong. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but basically, I'm just going to say what I think he has to do next going forward in his career to claim that GOAT status, and like how likely it is that he'll be able to do it, because obviously, you know, he could get stopped by Strickland. You never know. We don't know what's necessarily going to happen for certain, so I'm just going to speculate and drop some takes and some theories right here today. So without further ado, let's get straight into this shit. Now, as of right now, he's got 8 wins in the UFC, and he's only 31, and he's been in the UFC since 2020. As of right now, we're at the start of 2025, so 8 wins is really good. Also, to mention the fact that he's undefeated in the UFC, which also looks really good on his record. And, you know, like, in his first couple fights, he was fighting some cans, but, you know, then he beat Darren Till, and he beat Brunson as well. Now, they aren't the greatest names of all time, but, you know, like, say, for example, Brunson has beat Till. Brunson has beat Holland and Machida, and he's been in there with some of the best middleweights of all time. You know, he's been in there with Adesanya and a couple more names, so it's not like he's a complete pushover in the division, and neither is Darren Till. I mean, obviously, his run at middleweight wasn't that good, but at welterweight in his prime, he wasn't the worst fighter of all time. He's always been pretty decent. Even in that Dricus du Plessis fight, he had moments of success, you know what I mean? He made his way all the way to a title bout against Tyron Woodley, beating some decent names, you know what I'm saying? Not a lot of people have a win over Darren Till on their record, which makes it that little bit more impressive, is what I'm trying to say here. But then after those 2 fights, he went on to be fighting Robert Whittaker, who at that point in time was considered a top 3 middleweight ever, and Dricus went out there and finished him. Before that, we'd only seen Whittaker get finished against Stephen Thompson when he was a tadpole in the UFC, and against Israel Adesanya, who at that point in time was considered one of the cleanest strikers we've ever seen, one of the best counter strikers, all of this shit. So for Dricus to go out there and finish Whittaker was fucking insane. And then to roll off of that win, go straight into a title shot against Sean Strickland, beat him, is just insane to me, especially in that fight where it was such a fucking war. You know what I mean? A lot of people thought Sean Strickland won, but Dricus du Plessis came out on top. And if you rewatch that fight, I feel like, you know, if you're being unbiased, you see Dricus does do enough to get that win. And, you know, I mean, I know we all know this, but Sean Strickland isn't a pushover himself, you know what I mean? He's got wins over Imavov. You know, he had a really close fight with Cannonier. He's beaten Adesanya himself. He's beaten Paulo Costa last year as well, and he's about to roll into the Dricus rematch this weekend. Like, this guy is going to have a stacked resume by the time he retires. You know, welterweight, he even fought Kamaru Usman. Sean Strickland is someone who has had an insane run in the UFC, whether he's been picking up wins or losses. I mean, this guy 50-40 Uriah Hall. I don't want to sound like a fucking TikTok fan out here, but you back in the day, you know, you have no idea how good Uriah Hall was, bro. I remember being a kid watching Uriah Hall thinking this guy was fucking sick, man. But anyway, let's stay focused on Dricus. So he beat Strickland for the belt and then went and defended the belt against Israel Adesanya, who I personally consider to be the greatest middleweight of all time. Now, he's holding on to that status not as tight as he used to, because, you know, he just got fucking chinned by Imavov, bro. I've not forgotten about that shit. That was like last week, you know. But Dricus went out there and beat him, and he also beat him by finish. He beat him by submission, which is really impressive. I'm pretty sure that was the first time that Izzy's ever been submitted in the UFC, which is fucking crazy to me as well, because this guy has 0 ground game. But it goes to show just how skilled Dricus is, and, you know, he's going out there finishing people you don't expect to get finished. You know, that's what makes me think going into this rematch against Strickland this weekend that he might find out the way to submit Strickland, or he might find out the way to chin Strickland. You know, I know that Pereira's already done it, but that's fucking Pereira. This motherfucker should be up at light heavyweight. Fuck knows who let him down there at middleweight, bro. That was fucking insane to me. And even that as well, I get that Strickland lost the fight against Pereira, but Pereira being on his resume just makes Strickland such a better win for Du Plessis. And you never know, Du Plessis has always spoke about potentially fighting Pereira. Now, I know that a Pereira-Du Plessis matchup is probably something we're never going to see, but even the fact that he's throwing those kind of ideas out there gets so much more interest around his name, and it really makes you think, who would win that fucking fight when he's going out there finishing motherfuckers like, you know, Whitaker, Adesanya, and potentially even maybe Strickland this weekend. Also, don't forget, Du Plessis finished Adesanya, and Adesanya KO'd Pereira in his last fight ever at middleweight. Now, let's turn our attention on what's going to be happening next after the fight this weekend with Strickland. If Dricus Du Plessis walks away with the win, which I think he is, so I'm not really going to be talking about what I think happens if he loses, what is next? It's clearly the Khamzat fight. Dana White has said it's going to be the Khamzat fight. We all want it to be the Khamzat fight. We wanted the Khamzat fight instead of the Strickland fight. Now, even though I am happy the Strickland fight is happening because Dricus Du Plessis gets to add to his legacy, at the end of the day, I think a round one domination over Robert Whitaker earns you a title shot more than some absolute snooze fest with Paulo Costa like a year ago. So it's Khamzat next, and I feel like Khamzat is going to be the hardest test for Dricus Du Plessis in his entire career. Khamzat is one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there and just walks through Dricus. Even though I'm a huge Dricus fan, I just understand the absolute insanity of Khamzat Chimaev. But we have seen Khamzat struggle a little bit before. He struggled with Gilbert Burns, who managed to last out through the first. A gritty fighter who can work through the later rounds. That is what Dricus is. That is what Dricus did with Sean Strickland. And I feel like if there's anyone to go in there and do that with Khamzat Chimaev, it is Dricus Du Plessis. I feel like Dricus is goofy enough to just scramble around, fumble around in that first round, just last out Khamzat. Wait until Khamzat's stamina starts draining a little bit and then get the real work in. I feel like those late round exchanges on the feet aren't going to be too good for Khamzat. I feel like we're going to see Khamzat get dropped a couple times if that fight gets out of the first round. I really do. And I don't think that Khamzat has the capabilities to pick up a 5-round decision over Dricus Du Plessis. He managed to sneak that one off of Usman that was really fucking close, but I don't think he can do that with Du Plessis. But even though I would lean towards Khamzat and I will pick Khamzat by an early finish, if that leaves the first round, honestly, I might lean towards Dricus Du Plessis. And I feel like me saying that is going to age well after this weekend in a fight where I feel like Strickland and Du Plessis are going to go quite far. I feel like it's going to make it to the championship rounds. Even if Du Plessis doesn't finish Strickland, or in some crazy fucking weird world, Strickland finishes Du Plessis, I think this is going to be a long fight, and I think we're going to see the durability and the grit of Du Plessis. Now, just to extend off of Khamzat, because I see when people talk about Dricus' future, they talk about the Khamzat fight and they don't really look past that. Now, I know it's really hard to predict the future with fighters' careers because MMA is just such an unpredictable sport, but let's not ignore the obvious. If he was to go on and beat Khamzat, the next person in line probably would be Imavov, seeing as Imavov just finished Adesanya. Imavov might pull a Strickland and just sit there and say, nope, I'm waiting for my title shot now. And I think Du Plessis would beat Imavov. I think that would be an easy win for Du Plessis. I think Du Plessis could even finish Imavov. Imavov is really good. Don't get me wrong, I think Imavov is one of the most underrated fighters in the division in terms of being a good, rounded MMA fighter. But I actually really think that Du Plessis would beat him, and I don't think it's crazy to say that. And I feel like if Du Plessis loses to Strickland this weekend, they should actually do Du Plessis versus Imavov. I feel like that'd be a really good fight, and I think it's a winnable fight for Du Plessis. I feel like Du Plessis' grappling will do really well, and I feel like Du Plessis, bro, it's so hard to say Du Plessis so many times in one video, and I'm trying to not just start fucking cussing like I do in some of my videos, but this is really starting to piss me off, dude. Du Plessis might show his art. Bro, I lost the point. This fucking Du Plessis. Bro, I love Dricus, but this name, bro. This name. Alright, let me lock in. So, I feel like Du Plessis could beat Imavov, and I feel like Imavov is going to be around that title picture very soon. I feel like he's going to take the spot that Adesanya did have in the current title picture, and yeah, that is how Dricus Du Plessis becomes the middleweight GOAT, in my opinion. If he goes out there and beats Khamzat Chimaev, after beating Sean Strickland. Basically, what I'm saying here is if Dricus goes out there, beats Strickland, then goes on to beat Khamzat, he would be the middleweight GOAT. I feel, in my personal opinion. You know, you've got Anderson Silva out there. Yeah, he had the crazy win streak, but let's be real, the win streak was mainly against Cans, and he took about fucking 11 losses towards the end of his career. I think it was 11 or 9. It's one of the two. And, you know, you've got Adesanya, who, you know, I consider him the middleweight GOAT, but not by a lot. And also, the people that he was defending the belt against weren't the greatest names. He had a snooze fest against Romero. He had an arguable robbery against Whitaker in the second fight. You know, he had 2 wins against Vittori, who's just a bum in the division, if we're being real. Same goes for Cannonier. Cannonier's a bit of a bum in the division these days, and I'm not saying that just to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to disrespect fighters, but I'm just talking skill-wise and legacy-wise right now. They're not the greatest fighters. Dricus du Plessis is going out there fighting the greatest fighters. He's beaten Adesanya, Whitaker, Strickland, the top 3 best middleweights in the division, other than like a Khamzat right now. So I think with another win over one of those and a win over Khamzat, he is the middleweight GOAT. And then if he was to go past that and then defend the belt again against Imavov, he would more than be the middleweight GOAT for me. And he would have a resume that would be extremely, extremely hard to top. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is, for me, how Dricus du Plessis can become the middleweight GOAT. I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video. I hope you're all getting hyped for UFC 312 tomorrow. I know my fucking commentary has been a little bit all over the place today. I'm very sorry about it, but it is what it is. But you know what I'm gonna say? You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. Do what the fuck you want, man. But I hope you had a nice day, evening, night, whatever the fuck you're doing, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out.